Welcome back, guys. We're here after a very tumultuous early game between the Afreeca Freecs and Gen.G. Not what we were expecting. Took a slower pace in the mid-game, but then finally ended with a very fun ending as well. Looks like Gen.G was going to come back, but in the end, Afreeca win game one.
Definitely went to script in terms of the late game, where Afreeca, with this comp with no marksman, found it very hard to close the game. They also didn't really have a way to deal with how big Ruler became as the game rolled on, but they desperately needed the Baron and Elder, which they got after a botched attempt at taking the Baron by Gen.G. So in the end, it was kind of two ambition mistakes. One getting caught leading to the first Baron, and a second one around the decision-making around the second Baron that allowed Afreeca to close a game that slowly but surely, it seemed like the little train that could was Gen.G and not Afreeca Freecs.
Had a couple of really cool fights down in the bottom side. This one was 4v5 and ended up going 3 for 3. Aiming, flashing in, everyone trying to flash in here. In the end, Ambition is able to clean up just a bit. But you had your GP in the top lane, farming on up. You eventually hit 6 items really fast. Ended up dying on this dive, but it was a really nice response out of the side of Afreeca to be there and be ready, because this was the 3rd time that the dive was happening with Nocturne Shen. They knew how to play against that combination very well. They drafted well against it, and it's part of the reason why they won. Ambition, a couple of mistakes along the way.
See if that means that Haru will be playing. No updates here. We don't have the spoilers, so we'll find out very shortly if there's any big changes on the side of Gen.G. They've been better with Ambition, so you could understand them giving him a reprieve for game one and saying, hey, how about that Sejuani this time? You're really good at that champion. Tucson was a man possessed in the early game. Those Righteous Glory engages feel like a long time ago, because they were. The average game time, longest for the Afreeca Freecs in the summer season, 36:01. We actually went 46 minutes and 10 seconds to adding another minute or so, I imagine, onto that average game time. But slowly but surely, Afreeca just about get over the line.
It took them a while. They went way too aggressive here. Kuro was just really excited to be playing LeBlanc. He's like, let me show you guys how it's done, and then he did.
And then it could have been a 50-50. 992.
Really close.
Was the health bar on that Baron. 1,000 true damage for both junglers, but ends up going the way of Spirit. They close down the fight. Nice zoning from Spirit here, trying to be as big as possible in this team fight. Again, closed out by Afreeca, but you do feel like we don't really know more about who will win game number 2 based on game 1, because by the end, you definitely saw the sparkle in the eye of Gen.G as that team comp started to kick in.
I mean, the combination of Cuvée and Ruler specifically, you can see the highest damage in the game, number 1 and 2. The Rise of the Varus in the late game were getting so scary. Thankfully for Afreeca, they were able to end it. The Trundle was really good in the early and mid game, provided a ton of CC. Took away a bit of the tankiness as well, but...
Assume Tucson will get the MVP here. I don't really know if there's an argument for anyone else.
No, I think he definitely deserves it. Had a couple of really nice engages and was just really good on the cow.
Game did turn around, what was it, 28 minutes or so. Gold lead went the way of the Afreeca Freecs, just about able to close it out, but it was a close battle. Excited to see what sort of game 2 we get with Afreeca on the red side, because on the red side, that's when they've gone a bit off the deep end with the Evelyn and other picks that have not really suited them. So last pick on red side is what I'm going to be focused on. Maybe Tucson gets it and we see something cool. Wait and see. MVP is ready. Will it be Tucson? Let's find out. It will.
Yeah, of course. Tucson picking up another MVP here. Only his 4th of the season. He was up towards the top in spring. He was actually getting them nearly every time that Afreeca came in. I cannot translate the Chinese at the top right, but okay, it means Tucson. Oh, there you go. To throw your body, I think, is the translation of that, Papa.
Well, that sounds like an engaged support to me, so I can get behind it.
Yeah, he was really good in spring on his engaged champs. I'm glad to see him bringing back the Rakan, the Alistair, more of the standard stuff for him, a little bit less Shen. It's his most played, but we'll see what happens on the red side. You know, the draft has been so crucial, especially with all the changing times here in the meta. We'll see what Afreeca decides to do on the red side.
I'll make a big prediction. Kuro will not play LeBlanc in game number 2.
Ooh, spicy, Papa. Wouldn't have expected that one. We're going to jump into pick and ban right now. for game number 2.
This one has already had a very interesting pick ban, because consider in game number 1, Zoe and Aatrox were banned. Zoe, Aatrox, and Rakan were banned on the red side by Gen.G. 2 of those 3, not usually red side bans. We move on to the blue side, where theoretically Gen.G have even more latitude to decide what is banned and what is not. We'll see what they opt into. Already we see the Shen banned away, a TuSin favorite, and maybe we just get the Rakan as the 3rd ban, and they say, screw you, please stop engaging on us.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised, actually.
Think about it. Why don't you ban 3 engaged champions and first pick Tahm Kench? Boom.
There you go.
That sounds like Gen.G's win condition.
I mean, Afreeca could definitely try to mess with their 3rd ban. Let's see what they do. Maybe they'll just hand the Nocturne over to Ambition again and then pick, you know, Swain, Galio or something like that and say, haha, now it's our turn to win the draft. Zoe going to be taking away no Rakan this time around.
They might just go for Xayah Rakan on the blue side, so they're not going to ban the Rakan. So theory there may not be put into practice. They banned Rakan on red side, remember. So Gen.G have a different Rakan priorities to some other teams. Afreeca Freecs ban away the Tahm Kench. Now what do you take? Nocturne available, Rakan available, Swain available. A lot of power available, as that is a dabbing Gen.G Penguin. Okay. I don't know how I feel. In fact, I know how I feel, but I feel bad about that. Please stop.
Is that their mascot anyway? Why are they penguins? I guess maybe it's the colors of a penguin. I'm not really sure. But Kuro, 4-0 on the Swain. Aiming, rather, this is the side of Gen.G. So definitely could try to mix it up here. I'll be interested to see who picks that one up.
Do you just go Nocturne Rakan? Because it's TuSin's Rakan. You don't really care if the Xayah is picked away. You got your best player on his best engaged champion. See if that's the decision here by the Afreeca Freecs. Spirit gave up the Nocturne in the last series against BBQ because he had a poor performance on it earlier in, but he is a legendary Nocturne player, so he's back on that one. And Afreeca Freecs seem to be really debating over the Rakan pick. They spent a lot of time deciding, but surely you lock it in.
Okay, never mind. We're going to switch to the Vladimir. We've been seeing a lot of switching recently in the pick and ban.
Maybe that's because if Gen.G takes Xayah Rakan, they're showing some more information about where the Swain is going. Gen.G are a team to play top lane Swain, as QV has played it already this season. But it is very peculiar to see Afreeca Freecs leave open the Rakan. You would imagine Gen.G don't need a second invitation to take it. Waiting to see, and it will be locked in.
Rakan, and they're probably just talking about some of their other picks. Why not use the extra time to just theory craft about what could be coming from the side of Afreeca, or to wait and think about something else? Could just be hovering this. I'll have to wait and see. But there it is, the lock-in, actually, on the Trundle. So they really wanted this matchup in the jungle.
I really want to know what TuSin's going to play, because consider that there was no chance Gen.G were going to pick Vladimir, because Ruler doesn't play anything other than Marksman. So the theory here might be a 5th pick support on the red side for the Afreeca Freecs support player. Might be something a bit more risky. Maybe a Blitzcrank will be considered later. They hover over the LeBlanc, now into Yasuo, and they will lock the Yasuo in this game. A blind Yasuo. Top or mid lane for this Swain, most likely. The first pick Yasuo I saw in the Misfits series yesterday against Fnatic left a lot to be desired. This is still blind pick, but they can put in some bans in the second round here. As I guess Kuro knows something we don't. However, Aiming has also played the Yasuo, so technically we do have a double flex happening by the Afreeca Freecs.
Definitely was surprised to see that locked in afterwards. The Yasuo also not the greatest into the Swain, especially early. We'll see where those 2 picks are going to go, but the Xayah ban was very obvious. And then the follow-up into more bans against TuSin, because, I mean, Afreeca invited it, right? They're like, we're not going to pick our support, by the way. Go ahead and ban more stuff.
Blitzcrank is kind of the one that's sticking out for me, that he loves to play. They ban Ezreal as well. Blitzcrank isn't high priority against the champions that Gen.G have, but Leona is the one that works into Rakan. So it feels like one of Leona or Blitzcrank is the sort of support that Afreeca is setting up for. I'm probably on the Leona hype train. In this one, he's going to have the Gragas banded him against. That is, 4 bans, plus, of course, the Tahm Kench. So 5 supports and the Rakan taken is 6 supports that TuSin will not be playing in this game. Will they last pick for Leona, or will they take it now? That's the kind of one that really sticks out. Here's the Leona hover.
Thinking about Blitzcrank 2. The Morgana also available. Thinking about that as a third possible pick. It is going to be the Morgana, or not the Morgana, the Leona that comes in.
I love you staring at Leona and saying Morgana.
It's just right in front of my face. Not sure about that one. Galio being hovered here.
Leona definitely makes a lot of sense. It means they will hold on to their flex picks until final pick. At some point, we'll have to know what Ruler is playing. Would he dare play the Swain and break his streak? You'd have to think no.
I would say just about 0% chance.
Lucian would be the strongest laner into Vladimir especially, and that's the more likely of choices. And go play the Ruin King. You'd think a play the Ruin King carry would be the choice because you're against awesome dudes and you really need to build lifesteal. Lucian gonna be hovered here. Hearing the Korean casters, of course, having flashbacks of some of the Lucians that have struggled. Varus is still available. Could go for an AP Varus build if he decides, and it will be the Varus in the end.
The Varus without a Tom Kench against all of that engage. That's a bit scary.
Leona kind of looks at Varus and says, yes, please, I'm going to ult you.
Yeah, look at her eyes. She's ready for it right now.
I think you're going to have to go cleanse here. Ruler already swapped over to it. Now we're going to try and fit in a Vel'Koz on the side of Afreeca. This could be in multiple lanes. Kuro's played it in mid, and it's probably going to be against the Galio, you'd imagine. So look at the final lane assignments here. It's going to be Vladimir top lane, Yasuo mid lane hovered at the moment. Waiting to understand it. Kramer played bot lane Vel'Koz, and I guess against Varus, you don't mind it. They're just going to keep swapping through. Let's see what they settle on here. There's actually arguments for all the roles, so there's not really much reason for me to explain, because there's definitely a lot of options here for the Afreeca Freecs. Well then,
this is going to be Keen's first game of Vladimir, if it does not get swapped out at the last second. And there it is, Keen going to be showing off his Vladimir up against QV Swain. QV was 2-0 on Ryze and Swain. He received the loss on Ryze in game number 1. Will he receive another loss on one of his 2-0 champions? Could definitely happen here. It's a whole hell of a lot of damage out of Afreeca. Oh boy.
They have a lot of damage, but the eventual duo lane is a bit of a hodgepodge one. Leona and also the Yasuo. Yasuo will probably build up his Steel Tempest before the Leona goes in, otherwise there's no knock-up synergy going on. In fact, only knock-up I spy with My Little Eye is, of course, Kuro in the mid lane, and his E is usually used for self-peel. Wait and see how that goes. Kuro last picking himself the Vel'Koz, strong against the Bruiser comps that Gen.G had put together. Anivia could have been a consideration, but with the Varus there, they decide not to go for it. Keen on the Vladimir, like you mentioned. The Swain's actually considered a winning lane into the Vladimir, so that's definitely the winning lane to talk about in top side. Ruler and Core JJ should be reliable on Varus Rakan. But with this Leona, you know there could be fireworks in the bot side, just like game number 1.
Looking forward to it, and I'm also curious to see how Ruler's going to survive against this composition. Let's get into it, guys, though. Game number 2 right now.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Whoa. I'm uncomfortable with what was happening there.
Those tentacles are just a little bit too floppy for me. It's making me a little bit uncomfortable, Papa.
I'll take an out-of-context quote for 500. Please, someone clip that and use it as your ringtone. Or your text tone.
Oh boy, yeah. Just put that on repeat. That sounds good.
Well, the tentacles could definitely have a lot of value as this game goes on. The Vel'Koz ulti could be pretty valuable if he can hold on to his life before all of Rakan's CC is used. After Rakan has gone in, there's not too much follow-up there. On the side of Gen.G, looking at the summoner's spell choices here, look at this. We do actually have an interesting keystone. Kuro has gone for Unsealed Spellbook. The cleanse, pretty needed with the amount of CC on the enemy team, but he wants to be able to flex from there if the situation dictates.
Wonder what he'd be looking for outside of the cleanse.
Smite, baby.
Smite, I guess. You know, it's very common, especially on supports that pick up the Unsealed Spellbook.
The one that's actually not discussed that much is Ghost. Ghost can be very useful for a mage like Vel'Koz, who, outside of his ultimate, does like to reposition for his abilities. But the Cleanse, I think, will dominate, you'd have to imagine. Maybe even Ignite when his jungler's coming in could be situationally used. Let's see. Go ahead.
A teleport, not for ganks, but just for lane presence if he takes a little bit too much damage in the lane.
Well, his wave clear is better than the nerfed Galio's wave clear, and that's going to be happy for him. At the start of the game, I'm interested to see if Aiming and Tucson can get through this laning phase with any degree of parity against Varus and the Rakan. Pretty powerful duo locked in by Gen.G.
I love the mana that comes in from the Scuttle Crab. It's really good on a bunch of various amount of support, or rather junglers. I feel like it was definitely needed.
A lot of control here for the side of Gen.G. Winning lane in the bot lane for certain. Nocturne's just farming though, Spirit, hoping to find more success with his ults than he was able to against BBQ Olivers. Remember, Afreeca's coming off that embarrassing loss just a few days ago, so it would be a big statement if they could back up a 2-1 loss to BBQ with a victory to confirm that their candidacy for the top 5 is still pretty rock solid.
It would also just make things really weird for the LCK. I feel like Gen.G is up at second place right now, but everybody's so close to each other. But then you look at Kingzone, they lose to Jin-Air. Then you look at Afreeca, they lose to BBQ. And then those teams just turn it around and win against other really strong teams very soon after. It's
let's ask the question.
It's very crazy.
Who is the best team in the LCK, in your opinion?
Griffin. Well, we do have the engage here. Double knock up on Aiming, who does eat that Ignite. Rather, not the Ignite, but just the healing reduction. But either way, the fight does go in the direction of Gen.G as predicted.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. Who will win LCK Summer as of now, in your opinion?
That's a much harder question, right? I feel like right now Gen.G is the strongest team, or not Gen.G, Griffin is currently the strongest team when it comes to just mechanics and winning these best of 3s, but the best of 5 is going to be a lot harder. The lack of experience is going to make it hard to actually win up against all these other strong teams that have been there, done that before.
Spirit's shadowing here, by the way, to cut you off. He's
maybe
out
KT.
of vision.
Maybe KT go ahead and just climb the ladder no matter where they are in the top 5. I feel like they're currently the best. Tucson walking forward straight into it, nearly dies before he can flash, but it's not going to matter. First blood before Spirit can even join the fight. Just as easy as you'd like. Well done by Ambition.
Very curious setup by Afreeca Freecs when they have a level 4 Nocturne. I don't really see how that's going to be made to work. I understand what they were looking for, but Nocturne was always going to take a long time to even put out a Duskbringer, let alone anything else in the fight. So it ends up being a donation by the Afreeca Freecs in a lane where I don't know they can afford to be donating Valdez. Leona Yasuo is already a risky one. Tucson walks up, he thinks he's baiting, he doesn't know that the enemy Trundle is here. But given that reality, he goes down very fast.
The second you're face checking a Trundle with the Rakan right next to him, and you have just nowhere to go, you are going to die. He knew it, still went for the flash anyway, which I thought was a little bit surprising.
It is fun to come back to the predictions of, it feels really matchup centric, doesn't it? Because if I tell you, hey, it's KT and Griffin in the final, I'm sure you feel really good about your KT prediction. Like, yep. That's
getting excited about that right now, as we speak.
But if it's, let's say it's Kingzone and Afreeca in the final, then you're like, okay, I think Kingzone has the matchup into Afreeca pretty consistently. And there's just lots of matchups that seem like they have a name that leaps off the paper, but we're going to have this weird situation where Griffin might win the regular season and have a month off to research, but also to stew while they're watching the the rest of the matches unfold around them. There's so many different variables, and that tells you that right now the difference between first and even 5th and 6th place is pretty minimal.
I mean, we saw Chovy in his first matchup here at the LCK, and I was just praising him so much because he came in here, he was dominating lane, he was really aggressive, he didn't look nervous at all. But then again, that's just a first match at the Nexon Arena. 200 people in front of you, no big deal. You get into an arena that has, thousands of people in front of you, and you had a big break from being on the stage as a 17-year-old, and you're trying to come in here, and you're trying to do better than Rather, who hasn't looked all that impressive. I just don't really see him doing quite well, and when they try to sub in Rather, I don't think it would work either. So
there's a lot of ways to rationalize both ways. You can say they've been the best, they should win. You can say they're all rookies, they should lose. Very, very difficult to predict too much about
specifically about Chovy.
And that's fair. I mean, there's not that much difference with the rest of them, right? When it comes to their candidacy. Spirit's 6 this time, maybe it'll work better.
Perfect positioning out of Ambition once again. I mean, he just feels it, you know? And he's really good at being the right place at the right time on this Trundle, specifically. The Trundle, the Sejuani, who's done this before, is right there. Thankfully, Spirit decides against going for that one.
Clears out a control ward. Ambition would love to solo the Infernal because his bot lane has had presence the entire time. Not been able to do so. He's going mid. He wants a flash from Kuro.
Yeah, I think he is. Well, that was a fantastic knockup. Oh, baby, Kuro. And here we go. Unfortunately, level 5 Rakan is just going to disappear if the Yasuo can get the knockup, and they finally turn it around.
What a sick passage of play. It's what we deserve if you get such a great play in the mid lane, is a kill going your way. It ends up being in the bot lane, but beautiful stuff. Kuro just pulled off the most complicated Vel'Koz play I've ever seen.
That's Vel'Koz levels of IQ. Did a little bit of research on him, you know. Let's take a look at how this kill happened in the bot lane,
I want to watch the mid lane again. This was just to a bait there. Really nicely done. CoreJJ moves up for a Q poke because he sees Leona. Leona changes direction, maximum range. Zenith Blade. That's definitely the Leona we were looking for Tucson after his blooper earlier.
Are they really not going to show the play in the mid lane? No. SpoTV, come on. This is not the time.
But the bottom one had the kill in it, Valdez.
The highlight was the mid lane.
I know.
We don't care about Nocturne ulting a level 5 Rakan.
Excuse me, the post game doesn't show anything other than kills and assists, Valdez.
Come on.
Well,
you're letting me down, Spo.
Valdez tilted.
Yeah. Officially triggered here on the broadcast.
Well, we get to see Vladimir top lane. Just fine, just farming.
Somebody clip it and send it to me later on Twitter.
You need it for your collection.
Yeah. For my, my tentacle collection. It's a special folder that I hide on my computer.
What's the name of the folder?
Tentacle collection.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not really what you would expect.
Yeah, I thought it would have a name like you name it after a movie you enjoyed as a kid or something, just to even draw less attention.
Or maybe just like tax folder, something like that.
That'd be pretty suspicious knowing you.
Yeah, I definitely don't do my taxes. Don't come after me, IRS.
Well, now I know what to look for if I ever steal your laptop away from you.
Yeah.
As Afreeca Freecs looking to steal this series, the bot lane has already had 1 kill, and if Aiming and Tucson get some more, get a big lead in what was looking like a poor laning phase. That'd be big for them. Ambition spending a lot of time bot side. He really wants that Drake, as we know, but he's going to be revealed.
I was praising him before about his positioning, but just the 15-second window he wasn't there. They find the gank on the bottom side, and now they're looking to turn it around onto the Leona. So much CC onto her, but she has a stopwatch. The TPs are coming in, and look at the mid lane. Gonna go down there is the Galio, just eating way too much damage. Cubase here from the top side now. Keen getting a little bit too close. Is gonna have that Hemoplate proc and get him up to full health once again. But a 1 for 0, actually. Actually, 1 for 1, I suppose. That Tucson did go down in the end.
Galio goes down, just turned on by the Vladimir and also the Nocturne. Nice play there. The Vel'Koz doing the majority of the damage. Watching the bot side, though, it's actually a very deep teleport by Galio, but he just wants to get back to lane, so I guess it's fine. And maybe this Infernal, they've been eyeing very, very temptedly for the last few minutes, is going to be picked up.
They are going to easily pick this one up with the Vel'Koz having to back, and of course, did not have TP. Spirit thinking about it, but he'll think twice. Will not go any flash smite plays here. Let's take a look at how this happened, though, again.
Watch the replay. That's why I asked who's ganking who, because we knew the Nocturne was lying in wait. They turn on to Leona, whose stopwatch is available. By the time the CC bar goes down, obviously quite low is Tucson. Galio is just caught in transition and dies. The big problem here, the reason why Afreeca can't get more after the Hemo play is that there's no synergy on the Steel Tempest when it comes to setting up the last breath. So the last breath is never used, they can't hold them in place, and never ends up being those extra kills to aiming. But crucially, I think aiming does find a Phantom Dancer while the laning phase is still going, which is pretty big given how the laning phase was looking a few minutes ago.
He's still down 20 CS, but that kill is going to help him stay alive in that lane and get the items that he needs. Now the cleanse is still down on the Varus. Maybe they look to try to make a play here, as Tucson does have his ultimate ready to go. There's be a lot of action here soon, as Spirit also will have that Paranoia available. Let's see what's going to happen here. Like the action that was coming in, but definitely nice play over to Gen.G, able to pick up that Infernal Drake on the back of the TP, as well as the Vel'Koz being zoned out.
Early games have definitely been more proactive than we expected. We thought a lot of laid-back farming, but Ambition and Spirit have rewritten that script with quite a lot of aggression. A welcome thing for teams known for pretty slow tempo, especially Gen.G. Tucson walks up, only level 6. Of course, 4JJ and Tucson have been involved in a lot of scrapping and not been getting a lot of experience. Continues to walk up. Still waiting for the first Hero's entrance play to really come through this game as Fly. He's been farming, but to the tune of a 10 CS disadvantage and the death we saw on screen.
Yeah, I mean, he's sitting on a Catalyst here. Basically does not do damage. So he is the Galio that has that base damage, but either way, still looking for his relevance so far. Trying to find an identity in this game, but the team fights haven't started just yet. He'll have plenty of opportunities as the game gets a little bit later on here. Spirit once again looking for the Paranoia. Nice vision control down in the bottom side though. The forward control ward just to spot him out as he comes on in. Lots of pings happening as well.
Afreeca Freecs know about the ward that's been the River Brush for basically the entire game. It's the one that Ambition's been sitting on for the majority of the first 10 minutes. Kane doing better in this lane than the matchup has been discussed. Again, a lot of Korean pros considering the Swain a counterpick to Vladimir in a duo lane and thus in a solo lane, but in the long lane of top, so far it's been farm times for King.
Take a look at the Scuttle counter here after it does update. It's Gen.G 6-0. Ambition, definitely one thing he's been doing well, although he is still a level down on the Nocturne, even with 2 kills somehow.
Gotta say, the good thing about Spirit, though, is while he hasn't been getting any of the Scuttles, he has been ganking bot lane and allowing aiming to get items that may have been impossible given the matchup. Lead is not massive in mid, as Ambition wants that flash from Kuro. Not gonna get it.
Kuro was able to zone away Fly before that happened. Another nice positioning on the knock-up. Doing really well on the Vel'Koz, so it looks like his mechanics are ready to go. We've been seeing Vel'Koz just slowly come into play. Part of the reason why it's really hard to play him nowadays is all of that just dive and backline access, the Galio, the Rakan, everything else, the Swain, right? That would have been awesome if Tucson just followed him back into the fountain.
There's definitely been patches in mechanics where that happened, so I wasn't sure until it all ended what would happen there. There was, of course, that famous patch where you could cleanse your second summoner spell, and Skarner would cleanse teleport people into his fountain for kills.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Never in pro play, but yeah, that did happen.
Ambition apparently has tried to go for 5 ganks. I saw 2 in the mid lane. That's what I saw.
Those times when he was in control ward and was within 600 to 800 units of the enemy are considered ganks. That's the reason that it shows up as 1 out of 5. He's been shadowing lanes more than ganking them, but look, if you got cool stats packages, sometimes they can be a little bit misleading.
See that more often than not, I should say. Over here with the ganking stats that we do have at Spo TV. A lot of action a little bit earlier on. You'll notice that the first item after jungle item for Ambition is the Knight's Vow. We talked about how is the Varus exactly going to stay alive in these team fights. That will definitely help him out.
And he's going for lane trundle. He's going to walk into lane. He puts the Knight's Vow onto the Varus and says, all right, Varus, we're against 3 melee champions. Let's take a turret.
what exactly can they do? The cleanse is available here onto Ruler. They can put a wind wall down to try to help him out. QV's thinking about going deep here onto Keen, just trying to bait that Humo Plague out, and he will do exactly that.
So, the bot side going for that 7-0.
Oh boy, oh, it's just barely gonna miss, and the Paranoia is already used here, but the TP response, they're looking for Tucson here. Fly is gonna come on in, and there's the engage from CoreJJ, is gonna take down Tucson on the backside. Tucson kind of baiting in the Paranoia, but also gets caught out himself.
It's definitely the baits there, like you mentioned. The moment Tucson missed, they pull away, they see the teleport. Aiming also has to flash. He walks up and then, in kind of a panic, just goes for a very defensive flash, worried about dying. There's all the setup from Gen.G to take the bot lane turret, the first of the game. As Keen and QV may be trading damage, but right now the kill pressure's not there.
How about another Drake to the side of Gen.G? They already have an Infernal. Cloud Drake will be really nice, especially for their engage that they do have, and keeps and bounds on the side of their Recon. See if QV decides to go for an aggressive trade with his ultimate. That's when you know things are getting serious for the Swain.
And watch the replay of how this all came together, trying to spot onto Ambition. Zenith Blade misses. Spirit chooses not to go in, as the teleport is actually channeled a little bit after the fact. They know they can get at least one kill on Tucson. It's actually Aiming, who walks up, gets charmed, puts on the W, flashes away in hindsight from the taunt. It's probably fine, but very defensive. He has the cleanse, doesn't use it. And Gen.G fall back with another Drake, and finally with that bot lane out of turret. They would have loved it earlier. Again, double ranged against double melee. They would have been eyeing unleashing Ruler and CoreJJ on the map around 13 minutes. It's 5 minutes behind schedule, but it's still exactly what Gen.G want.
That engage was definitely a little bit awkward, right? Even if Tucson had gotten in there, got the combo onto the Trundle, he's pretty tanky, right? With Cinderhulk, the Nice Val already finished off. The Vel'Koz had enough mana to go for a full rotation, but if he was in range for the full rotation, Galio would have teleported on top of him. And then you're looking at perhaps 2 kills. Maybe Aiming joins in, you get him as well, and you trade for a 3-for-1, and it also doesn't go in your way. So just not the greatest look at an engage, I'd say, for Afreeca. Maybe getting a little bit desperate, trying to find something or someone to kill on the map.
It's surprising to see the Vladimir go Shirelius. Don't see it too much after it was adjusted to have more mana regen and stats that specifically Vladimir wasn't a big fan of. Will still be a good engage tool, but we normally see Protobelt and Spellbinder a lot more. Relanamakon going to be the second item, just to be able to account for QV in the laning trades a bit better. Tucson walks up, they want this.
Okay, they really want to get that Trundle, and there's that backline access with the laser coming in from Kuro. The double kill and Spirit is going to live, but the rest of Gen.G is going to show up. Here's Keen with his own teleport, and Kuro is just popping off on the Vel'Koz. Unbelievable. Here's Keen and the Yasuo. Maybe this is the team fight they were looking for. QV is going to be researched, and there's that damage. Has to flash away. Just barely will get it out, but Ruler now trying to go 1v3 here. He gets the flash out of himself to try to get away. Oh, and there's the damage. Kuro nearly goes down from Fly. And oh boy, that fight was on a razor-thin edge. Looks like it went the way of Afreeca, though.
Was a really awesome team fight to watch. So many cool plays happening, but Kuro the star for sure. Getting everything perfect on the Vel'Koz, even using the Tectonic Disruption to open up a last breath for Aiming. First one of the game we've been able to see. Let's watch the replay again. The ult does come short to begin it. But it's all because the Vel'Koz is set up to do damage. Rumble-esque in his setup there. But then Leona dies in the front line. Spirit is out of the fight very early, but then Kuro turns it around as E opens up the last breath. And they almost pick up more exit kills here to Afreeca Freecs.
Just imagine a later game fight where the Vel'Koz is even more fed. The Yasuo, instead of just last breathing in and then disengaging, he's blowing up your front line. Ruler could be zoned out if you're looking at more team fights like that.
But it's cool how even the last part makes sense, where Ruler feels he's strong enough to walk up because he still has the hero's entrance available for the damage reduction. Cool team fight. Small lead to Afreeca Freecs, but definitely nothing to blow up in the game, and can't really ask for much more in terms of parity than what? The better part of 500 gold at 21 minutes.
Well, Kuro was definitely the MVP of that fight. He's got the biggest part of the graph right there in the middle.
How do you do 32 damage? Do you... The Cinder Hulk burnt someone for 1 second?
I guess so. I think that would have to be at least 2 seconds. Well, Gen.G, they're not going to go down without a fight here. They do have the Rift Herald. They're going for the mid lane turret, but with not much of a wave behind this. And oh boy, okay, going to go 1v1 down here onto the Trundle Spirit. He's feeling it. There's the flash forward from Keem, but Cuvée lives. But look at the front line ambition. Going to get pretty low here, and down he should go. Staying alive for a really long time. Cuvée still super low, but Tucson engaging a little bit too much. Ruler had a really good position over the front of the wall, doing that damage over it. Just going to be a 1-for-1 in the end.
Kuro is able to do so much damage, doesn't matter. The 1-for-1 favors the side of Afreeca because they get the smite away from the enemy. But no Drake, no Baron threat just yet. Spirit in a really weird spot. I wasn't watching the mini-map, so I don't really know why Spirit and Cuvée were in melee range of each other as the paranoia was used. They're going to pick up a Scuttle Crab from this. Second of the game for the Afreeca Freecs. Kuro is just a damage item short of getting pentakills every team fight, it feels like. We're going to get that replay. So Cuvée walking around, they don't know he's there. The control ward, he just opens up onto Cuvée because they have the Vladimir on the bottom side to be able to move over. But everything is used to peel for Cuvée. It means no one's there to help Ambition, and that's why Ambition goes down really early.
Just wait for the next fight where your Trundle doesn't have a stopwatch, and he'll go down real fast, the rest of the team. But really got to applaud Ruler as well. He had really good positioning in that fight, was part of the reason why Afreeca had to disengage. I talked about the Vel'Koz and the Yasuo getting scary, but if they can keep the Varus alive in these fights, you can see once again he does the most damage on his team. He's going to be the real key for them winning.
And we need to see something out of aiming. I don't think he can rely on a Vel'Koz E. It needs to be his own setup on this ultimate because the Vel'Koz is not going to have too many more fights where Gen.G just let him do his thing. He's been able to win skirmishes 2 times in a row. Speaking of skirmishes, a lot of people come in melee range of each other, but no engages just yet.
Yeah. I talked about the damage that comes out of Afreeca's composition. They just look really aggressive. You know, they look just so ready to take any fight if anyone wants to step forward. They're going to take domination of this river in the bottom side, and of the Drake down here. We'll go over to the Nocturne. So they do deny it a third Drake away from Gen.G. Once again, a really, really close game so far. 5-5. The gold lead for Gen.G is only about 1,000. It's really either team's game from here.
Bit of a weird game, too. The Yasuo is 2-0-2, even though he's done precisely nothing. Gone for a very defensive build as well. He's gone for the Sterix because, look, there's a lot of CC and tanky members on the side of Gen.G, and he needs to live through it. I mean, the Galio has done basically nothing this game, apart from being caught in transition to the bot side. So definitely Fly looking for a better spot than he's been able to find recently. Definitely they want to fight where Cuvée waddles into the backline and then Hero's entrance is used on the Swain. But so far there's been so much disarray and the paranoia and all the catches that Afreeca have been trying to turn this into a kind of a pseudo pick comp to stop there being a team fight where Cuvée and Fly can actually combine for a big play.
Still waiting on aiming to do something here. Love the Sterix pickup. He knows that the side of Gen.G, they do have a lot of CC and lockdown, so if he is the guy to go in and just get focused down, he needs to have some kind of survivability to survive in these team fights and actually put out the damage. They already have so much damage in their composition. It doesn't have to be the Yasuo with, you know, Infinity Edge second, trying to burst down Ruler all by himself. So will be a little bit tanky in these fights, and I'm curious to see when Afreeca is going to pull the trigger again. Looks like on the Cuvée here, as he does not have his Zonius this time around. 2-on-1. At least he does have his flash to get away from this engage.
Smash down for a team fight. Nice little collapse. Speaking of collapses.
Oh boy, aiming in a rough spot here. There's the pillar. He's just going to cleanse flash away. Sterix going to help out on that burn damage on his way out, but he did have to burn cleanse flash as he gets caught in the jungle.
Look, getting caught, that was the problem, but actually the escape is really good. Everyone was holding onto their skills, waiting for an early flash or cleanse from aiming. Him getting out with double summoners there was actually very tricky to do, so credit to him on escaping, but now we see important summoners blown on both sides. CoreJJ and Cuvée both using their flashes over the course of the 2 engages we saw, and aiming being with no summoners at all.
Let's take a look at the gold advantage graph. This definitely paints a picture of just how close this game is. The 8 to 17 minute mark was definitely controlled by Afreeca, as they had a couple of nice engage parts down on the bottom side, but then Gen.G fighting back at every turn.
To me, the team fight is really about who dies first, Vel'Koz or Varus. The two champions, starting with V, the two big carries for the two sides. If either of them is assassinated at the start of a team fight, I think it's all over. Both of them have champions to kind of clean up after they've already done their dirty work. I think Aiming could potentially carry this game at a big enough item timing, but he's so far away from Infinity Edge and Guardian Angel that for now at least he's going to be a little bit more vulnerable. Ruler has more options. He doesn't have to self-root to use his ultimate. He has the ability to outplay compared to the Vel'Koz. But the Vel'Koz so far has been so safe that it does really feel like overall, just unpacking it out loud, there is so much to pick between these two, but so little to actually separate.
Ambition not scared to fight here with this pillar. I wanted to point out that J actually took his own Knight's Vow second, and he put it on Ambition. They really want to keep this guy alive. Oh, that thought is Kuros just going to be caught out in a huge way. There's the engage. He goes down. He talked about who dies first. That's going to be 2 kills for the Varus. Can you make it 3? 1 Q would do it. Meanwhile, on the backside, Tucson goes down. A big mistake, and Gen.G will run away with the fight.
Face check from Kuro is going to be so costly. This could be Inhibitor and Baron. They're actually shouting. Who knows? They're going to try and push as much as they can.
I mean, we're already here at 28
Could just
minutes.
be the end of the game.
There's 30 seconds on 4 members. I think that's going to do it. As one mistake like that, and I feel like the fans are dumbfounded. How did this happen? You can't really make mistakes like that in pro play because Gen.G, they're going to shove it down your throat. That will be game number 2 going over to the side of Gen.G in astounding fashion.
There you go. Game ends. Aiming can do nothing. Just watch on as Gen.G close the game. You would have predicted a 3-game series, we get one, but the fashion in which it was engineered was certainly surprising.
Definitely a weird one. You talked about who dies first. If your Vel'Koz is going to disappear and the rest of the team is going to get debated in with you, well, Varus is going to have a hell of a time in the back line. He was even frontlining there, as there was just nothing for Afreeca to fall back upon. Gen.G, they will happily scoop that win up and tie the series up. Sure, they were sad about losing game number 1. It was close at times, but game number 2, they take one fight, and that's all it took to bring this to game 3.
We got a lot of good moments here, Gen.G. It didn't look like things would come together, but it comes together in that big team fight, the pick onto Kuro. No Vel'Koz, no problem for the side of Gen.G. They close it out, and now we got this very tasty 3rd game. Afreeca back on the blue side. The series so far has been blue side focused, and Afreeca another loss on the red side in a row.
Yeah, they look kind of dumbfounded, you know, some awkward glances around the booth as I think they know exactly what happened. Trying to come in here and clear out the control ward. You're gonna die. You're walking into Varus and Rakan.
That's kind of a solo mistake from Kuro. You have to make it pretty akin to one of the last Vel'Koz we saw, Crown, who made a face check topside and lost Gen.G the game. He greeds for an auto attack on a control ward, and that auto attack cost them the game.
That it definitely did, because the rest of Afreeca felt like it was close enough where they could engage. It was just the perfect fight to be baited in on, but the Vel'Koz could not survive. In the end, we do bring ourselves to a game number 3. Will be the final one of the night, Afreeca versus Gen.G. Join us back in 9 minutes.